करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
Hari Om and good evening to all. So we continue with where we left in the last class. The topic is marital harmony, and we were discussing about the reasons for marriage. Reasons in the sense, what are the instinctive reasons based on which marriage is justified. So we covered the first three reasons, which is progeny, possessiveness and companionship. One of the important reasons, or instinctively, which is an universal phenomenon, is the aspect of sex, which is a physical relationship between a husband and wife. Marriage provides a avenue to enjoy the bliss arising out of physical contact also. This bliss arising out of a physical contact between a man and a woman is considered the highest form of sensual pleasure. When we eat a mango, there is a pleasure. When we watch a movie, there is a pleasure. When we listen to a music or use a perfume, there is a pleasure. When we taste something, there is a pleasure. All these are comparable to each other, and one pleasure can be higher than the other, and it also may be different for different persons. But one fact that probably is applicable, universal, is amongst all the contact born pleasures, this pleasure is considered the highest. The reason for that is that this is the form of pleasure where all our 5 sense organs are involved. If you take any other sensual pleasure, in most of the cases it is 1, sometimes it can be little more than 1, very rarely 3. See, suppose if you watch a movie, it is your eyes that is partaking in the pleasure, and the mind gets the pleasure through the eyes. But the sound is also there, obviously ears are involved there, but there is no scope for, let us say, skin or a nose there. When you eat good food, it is the tongue that participates in it. Yes, you can say that sometimes the smell also is there when it is hot and served fresh. Even if you extend and say the way it is arranged, it can be pleasant for the eyes. That's about all. There is no other sense organs involved. So if we analyze like this, what is the one pleasure which involves all the 5 sense organs? It has to be this bliss arising out of a physical contact between the husband and wife. So it is considered as the highest form of pleasure. Not only that, in that process it involves a deep emotion also, it can drag the mind in. So it is sort of it is given a very sort of, what to say, a high status as far as the gratification of senses is concerned. And what is interesting, according to our understanding, in our tradition, in our culture, like everything, this is also considered very sacred, very holy. There are, see, when we talk about samskaras, the marriage is considered as a very important ritual, and there is mantras at every stage of marriage, and traditionally there is also, it culminates in the mantras that they undertake even before the first night happens. It is still prevalent if you go into the traditional Orthodox weddings that are there. Why I am trying to emphasize this point is that based on various notions, particularly we can say the Christian notion of what is considered as an original sin, our perception about sex is distorted. It is considered to be something ugly, it is considered something sinful. This has gone into our mindset very deeply, I am not advocating that we openly talk about it or there needs to be a sex education, not like that. But our attitude towards that, our understanding of that has to change. There are various concepts like that, even love, even sex, various, even divinity. Some of the things that are that we have a notion about is not how it is to be understood in terms of its pristine nature. So each and everything in our culture, in our tradition is holy, means birth, the conception, the birth, eating first morsel of food, going to school, attaining age or marriage, death, even disease, everything is associated with divinity. So why not, why should this be anything that should be considered sinful? And this is a notion that is also even glorified in movies in a negative way, and very sad that post the spread of internet, which is a tool which we are using even now for the class, as I said, technology can be used and it is how you use that matters, but more than 70% in the internet, the traffic and is used for watching porn. And I am not here to judge ethically and morally whether it is right or not. It is the question of how your energy is being sent, and second aspect is how your perception about what you see is shaped by this. It is, we talked about the four purusharthas where we said dharma, artha, kama and moksha. There are various dharma shastras. There are shastras pertaining to artha, and artha shastra of Chanakya is the most famous of that. And there is shastra and kama by sage Vatsyayana, who has written a thesis and treatise on sex which is called Kama Sutra. And no less than a realized sage has written it. So you can understand how much how it was treated, and it is giving various. I would also not. You see, it is not a book that everybody keeps in the home and reads, and it is not something to be understood. But the point I am trying to say is, it gives a elaborate points about how even the giving of pleasure and taking of pleasure is explained. It is a wonderful that way. So what we are trying to say is, the notion that gets impressioned, particularly in the young minds as they get into adolescent age, and the sources that they get from it is far from what it is actually there. It is something very nice, it is something that needs to be enjoyed as a part of marital bliss. And in this context, in the book Fall of the Human Intellect, when these reasons are discussed, you will find that Swamiji has classified the want of this physical pleasure, which is an urge to enjoy this, he categorizes under four classifications, four categories. The first category of people are termed impotent. Again, go by the spirit of the meaning in which these terms are used here. Impotent refer to those people who have absolutely no urge at all for this physical pleasure. Hardly they have any urge, probably even if tempted, they don't have that urge in them. So they are impotent, they are classified as impotent. Passive people are the second category. Passive are those who by and large are not extremely oriented towards this, but when there is a temptation, when there is a provocation from the other side, they do react, and they have that urge to enjoy it, but by themselves they will not be probably proactive in this. So they are classified as passive. The third category is active, where there is a lot of initiation and there is a lot of frequency, and wanting to enjoy this is a much more urge is there, very clearly visible in them. So they will want very frequent contacts to satisfy this physical urge. They can be classified under active category, the third category. Fourth is the promiscuous, which is a very, very highly demanding person who probably all the time thinks of this, and this probably is like a ultimate goal of his life. In that sense, he relates to this. Constant demand for this is there. Whether or not a conducive atmosphere is there or not, his mind is always thinking around this type of a pleasure only. So so promiscuous is in one extreme, important it is in the other extreme. In between we find the passive and active category of people who want this physical contact for their satisfaction. So in terms of what we understand as a need for marriage, probably the first and fourth category, the two extremes, are not fit for marriage when we consider this reason, because it will be a torture for the partner in obviously in different ways, but it is difficult for the other partner to cope with this type of partner who is of this nature. But what is interesting is, maybe 99% of the people fall under a majority of the passive and active category only. So it is rare that people are there, but there are people who are like that. You cannot deny their existence. But marriage as an institution, from the overall picture, if you see, it will be difficult for such a person to cope along with the partner, or for the other partner to cope along with this person when it comes to this particular need. And also, just as the physical makeup of a man and woman is different, the mental makeup of a man and woman is also basically different. The urge and need for this also is not uniform, though there is a lot of common factors among this. The very structure itself will reveal that who is capable of giving more and who is capable of receiving more. So one has to understand this also psychologically from other person's point of view if you want to have this bliss continued. So therefore, this is something, and we have discussed it when we had a session on middle path, that this needs to be obviously moderated for a healthy life also. I am not talking from pleasure point of view. Pleasure point of view is there, but health point of view is also there. Just as you would regulate food, just as you are asked to regulate sleep, you are also asked to regulate. What is the exact regulation? That may vary from family to family, partner to partner. You can obviously come to a conclusion about it. But there has to be regulation and moderation, even from the point of view of sustaining the pleasure. Or otherwise you tend to lose the pleasure in this also. So this is a very important aspect of a marital relationship which is there. Obviously, there are various other factors involved in this. Therefore, if you say a person is only oriented towards this, and if he doesn't have other things, then is there a way that I can get it over by means other than marriage? Possibly yes, if you can argue it out that way. But this must not be viewed merely as a physical contact. That's the whole thing. There is much more involved in it, and marriage is a total overall package deal. It is not just for this, and this is one aspect of it. That's about all. But maybe a vital aspect that is there, but it is one of the aspects here. These are the four major reasons. The other two reasons are relatively minor compared to these four reasons. Security. Security is when one partner is in general married to the other partner, then from the societal point of view also they know that they are already there, so there may not be other amorous advances towards the other person. There is a sense of a fence that is built here. That's why family forms a fence in which you can you have freedom to practice the knowledge that is there. In that sense, it forms a security for the woman and security for the man, like that it is. In other words, at the thought level also you are free from other things. In that sense also a security is there. And obviously an extension of that is the protection. Protection in the sense, there is always somebody to take care, that is always there. A man cannot be all alone by himself. That state of self-sufficiency is at a very high level. So there are, as I said, needs that are to be taken care of from various emotional, physical and other points of view. There is always another person that is there in the family, and obviously this is somebody who have taken an oath to walk together. The relationship with father-mother is different, the relationship with son and daughter will be later different, but this is somebody who is at your level to walk together. In that sense, a protection and a feeling of sense of that there is somebody there for me, and that identification which starts from here, it is helpful in various other ways. It could be that I need not worry about my next meal. If I suddenly fall sick, there is somebody, in that sense, there is somebody has to rush somebody to a hospital or something. So that in that sense you will find that, so those things which are there mutually helping each other, in that sense protection is there. But if a person is not having a weakness, not having an urge with reference to the first four, which are very, very strong and universally applicable, then the other two can be taken care of in some other way. See, a person can deposit a certain amount of money, and out of that interest he can take care of himself. If he joins a ashram or something like that, also it is possible. In that sense, there is a security there. You need not worry about your meals, and you are not worried about your shelter or accommodation like that. So these things become secondary, provided the other four things, the first four things are not at all you are meaning grown over it, something like that. It is just not there. As I said, 99.99% of people do not belong to that category. So therefore, marriage is sort of a universal phenomenon. There could be a rare person who has the capacity to sublimate his thoughts and stay single. I am not talking about a natural person who is elevated to a sannyasa state maybe at a very young age. Even for a person who wants to try it out, that he has that Dhrida Vairagya, that is also a very, very rare person who can do it. But there are people like that, but if you wanted to put it in a percentage, it is 0.01 or 0.001, something like that. It's a very, very small percentage of people. So these form the basis for which a person gets married, and as it is said even by the author, there could be other reasons also. See, a person wants to start a business and he doesn't have money. There is a wife who brings dowry, let us say, that becomes a reason for marriage in that sense. But that these are all, so you can keep on adding reasons. There are people who, there was a rich millionaire who gave an advertisement who wanted a young beautiful bride, and there was a lady who married because she was very clear that she is going to get the property and that person is not going to live long. I mean, this is, even to discuss this, it's very cheap, but the point is, there could be various other reasons for marriage, but these are considered like a universal instincts based on a way by which we approach the institution of marriage in a dharmic way. And then if you probably walk in it properly, then you can grow over it also. So this is something, so that is why this is called as samsar. Samsar is a entanglement. In Bengali also they use the word samsar for family. Samsar is world also, samsar is family also. It has no equivalent English translation. Generally they refer to this, but that which sort of binds you in a way where you do not know how and when you are getting into it, but when you are neck deep in it, then only you realize that sort of unintelligent relationship that we create out of something is called as samsar. Samsar can be created out of any relationship, not necessarily just, a person need not be married, but he can be having a samsar in politics. He can have a samsar in running his own company. In that sense, you can broadly use the term. But this is the one of the major samsars, you can say. The moment a person is happy-go-lucky as a bachelor, and once he is tied like that in a family, they say you are caught in a samsar, something like that. So this is a samsar, but certain things are like necessary samsar. If you approach it properly, it is a very beautiful relationship, and then you will be able to extricate yourself out of it also in the most natural way. So these form the reasons of marriage. Now what is the basis of marriage? Basis of marriage, yes, it is two individuals coming together, and you can extend it to say that finally two families also are also coming together, but essentially it is a bond between the two individuals. That is the essential aspect of the marriage. And there are various other things that we discussed in the last class also. But the basis of marriage or basis of any relationship is first of all trust. And out of that trust comes love. Love is the ultimate, ultimate weapon that a human being has to win over others. It is there. The winning over others and establishing your unity is a universal phenomenon. A brutal force is okay as far as animal is concerned, but when it comes to human being also, you need to establish unity, you need to win over others, but not a brutal animal force is accepted here. You win over others, in other words, in your umbrella you encompass and as it were swallow others, and the only thing that you have is love. Here also it's very interesting. From the time that we are born, we are on a receiving mode. We receive emotions. We receive even money from the parents. We receive everything, our provisions, everything, and that is accepted. We receive our education and everything is taken care of. When a person graduates and when he goes into work, that is the time he knows what it is to contribute. That is why there is a jerk in life of a youth when he goes into the office, because so far his pocket money, everything is provided, education is provided, everything, and now he is asked to work and contribute. So there is a shift in his attitude like that. Like that is the institution of marriage, where you will know what it is to give love. And this also, particularly for a woman, it happens faster first, because she is implanting herself in a family which so far now has been alien to her, and from now on it becomes her family. So therefore she has to obviously win over all the members of the family, but main thing is as it is the husband. See, remember this, the essential relationship is with the husband only, and not to disrespect or leave out the other relationship, but the basis of that is the relationship with the husband. A priest in a temple, let's say Shiva temple, is married to the Shivalinga. Okay, Shiva is the main deity to whom he has undertaken vow that he will do the puja. But in the temple you will find all other Parivara Devatas are there. Parivara Devatas means other deities will be there around this deity. So he will put a flower on each and every deity, pour water, arang and everything. He will do that. Is his regular routine. He has to do it. But he has to remember that his essential relationship with his Lord Shiva there. Okay, the main deity there. Exactly like that. The main relationship for this girl who has married and comes is with the husband. There will be Parivara Devata. So the husband will be happy if that type of husband is there. And then she can do the necessary puja to others also. But remember, the Parivara Devatas can never be fully satisfied. That's not possible. That is why I am saying the essential relationship is with the husband only. But if he values that, it has to be done. In that sense, I am saying. So when so therefore, the point where we started is that she knows or understands what it is to give love when she gets married. She has to do it, and she has to stay strong, and from that strength has to come that love. But as far as the husband is concerned, probably he does not know what true love is. As much as his partner has understood, he has still not understood, because he is still being pampered. So all this time the parents are in pampering, and now somebody else has come and he is pampered in that way. Probably he will know what it is to give love when he sees his own child, and in that sense he know it takes little more time. I am not saying it as a black and white, and I am not demeaning the role of husband in any way here, but it comes more naturally for a woman, and the situation is also created in such a way that it is like this. And also, as far as dependency is concerned, since we are on the topic of harmony in marriage, we can think psychologically from this point of view, understand this carefully, that there is bound to be fights between husband and wife. This cannot be avoided. If anybody says there is perfect harmony and there is no fight, they are lying actually. Or like what we said in the last class, that may lead to divorce also. It is just not possible. It is not palatable also that way. And we are also abound with so many stories from our own Puranas, whether it is Brahma and Saraswati, whether it is Vishnu and Lakshmi, whether it is Shiva and Shakti, there is bound to be quarrels and fights. So our gods are our ideals here. Okay. Now, if these fights start, let us put it this way, as early as these fights starts, it's better. If a lady has not fought with her husband, let's say 1 year after marriage also, what this psychologically means is that she has not settled herself fully in that house still. There is still a sense of insecurity. That's all it means. Once she takes over that role in that house, she becomes the Yajamani, right? She is the boss there actually. That's how it works. So there will be fight. In that sense, I am saying, I am not encouraging people to fight here, but the point is, that's how it works. So in other words, when do you have that tendency, or that we also talked about when we in anger management, when do you have that feeling that I have a right to get angry over this person? Only when you feel close to that person. So all this actually comes from the basis of love only. So therefore, if a person is not feeling that way and still feeling insecure as to not being accepted, or in that sense, it could be psychological feeling also inside. If it is there, then it obviously it is the duty of the other partner also. But that intimacy and that closeness has to be there. So therefore, and what we see also in general is that, first, I do not know the time. It could be first few months, first few years, whatever thing after the marriage. It is the wife who is dependent on the husband for everything, and slowly the roles gets reversed, and then it's a lifelong dependency from the other side actually. It is like that. There is a story about Akbar Birbal. I do not know whether it's Akbar Birbal or Tenali Rama. So Akbar feels that he is feeling bossed over by his wife. So he is asking Birbal, is it only in my case I feel, or is it a thing for everyone? He says, you can be an emperor for the whole kingdom, but in your house you know who's the boss and you have to just submit it. He says that cannot be the case, So he says, call all the men in my kingdom, I want to check it. So Birbal arranges in a big courtyard, only the husbands come. And then he says, whoever is listening to the wife and follow, you all go to that side, others can stay in this side. The entire lot goes to the other side, except one person who is standing here. Then the Akbar actually feels little happy. He says, Birbal, look, he is the only man in my kingdom, he says. Birbal says, please wait, and he asks, why are you standing here? My wife said not to join any crowd, he says. So it is, in this way also it is heard instinctively. But point is, it is a feeling of love which forms the basis on which the roles gets reversed. One has to be careful with this, because we are talking about gaining self-sufficiency. We are talking about being an independent path of spirituality, and here wherever one can complement and supplement each other to walk together, helping each other. In this process, definitely, so here we may go to the next slide, probably it is useful. We'll cover that point along with that. So here, what is understood as love which forms the basis of the relationship, most of the times it is polluted by our own selfish demands in it, and that love turns into what is known as a attachment. Oliver Goldsmith says in Vicar of Wakefield, and love is still an emptier sound, the modern fair one's jest, on earth unseen, or only found to warm the turtle's nest. It's very interesting. It's the turtle which buries its egg in the beach and it goes into the sea, and it doesn't even come to the shore again to see whether it is hatched. Otherwise, whether in case of fish it is different. In case of obviously birds it is different. There is a strong bondage even after the egg is there, and with the heat of the body is how the incubation happens. So why he says turtle is that feeling of love, that intensity of love the turtle feels at the thought level, and even if it is physically detached from it, it works. And he says, if at all to warm the turtle's nest only love is there, otherwise love is not found in this world. So what the modern fair one's jest, I love you, you love me, this is the theme of all the movies, all the novels, all the books, everything is centered around this. Obviously this is one of the important things, but it is very superficial, very emotions at the surface level. And we also know that the more it gets expressed, obviously in a movie and drama you need to express, because it is about action, it's about your visual effect. But in terms of intensity of feeling, the more intense you feel, the less it can be expressed. Naturally it will get expressed less. But the reality of love is that it is unconditional. That is true love. That love, when a pot of milk is added 2 drops of poison also in it, it is no more can be called as milk, though it may appear like milk. It is like that. It is, we pollute this love with our selfish demands and it turns out to be attachment. And this is the bane of any relationship. And what we said in the last class is that yes, it is a necessary samsara. You need to get into it. You even need to know what love is. You need to know how it blossoms. But then for most people what happens is that the home or the family becomes the boundary of our affection. Vedanta says home must be the center of your affection. And up to the level of home it is natural, because you also feel that in the animal kingdom they also have. It is very interesting that animals' love is naturally more selfless than humans in that sense. A mother dog takes care of the young pup, it will protect it. The mother sparrow will take care of the young sparrow, it will protect it. The father penguin and mother penguin will take care of that young penguin also. Once they grow, they are automatically detached, except for a very few animals. There is no other relationship beyond a point where the child grows into an adult. Later, if you serve food for a dog, now this young pup has grown into an adult dog, the mother dog has become old. When the mother dog comes for the food, it is not that the son is going to say, you take it first. It is not going to happen like that. So there is an automatic sense of detachment, and from here what we derive is that mother's love is even more purer. That mother's love of any animal is definitely, see, for a human also it is like that. There is no purer love than mother's love. But you can argue and say that the son will take care and grow and take care of the mother. No such thing is there in the animal, and yet it is able to show unconditional love. But what it is that it is helplessly being done as part and parcel of the nature. It is being done like that. So therefore, this is coming because of that sense of I and mine. And it has to be there. See, wherever I feel mine, there is a natural sense of love that is going there. You cannot deny it. And that is why to say, for you to have that emotion, there is somebody to call as yourself. That is your partner. That is part of you now. That is you. So therefore love has to blossom, and family is the way to start with. But just as you will, if you confine the water within a small container for a long time, it will get putrid. Exactly like that, if you contain this within the small boundary of my family, ultimately it will go up to the level of children, that's about all. And then within that container, it is held for a long time, it becomes sour, it becomes poisonous. And that poison actually affects the entire family who are all involved in it. So that is how a beautiful feeling of love turns out into attachment. And this actually is the tendency of the mind to get attached and go up to that level where it can naturally go, it is there. But to go beyond it, we need knowledge. And then the mind has to expand. Once the water is thrown on the ground and it expands, it can evaporate faster. Exactly like that, when your emotions are spread wider than the circle that you are caught up in now, that emotion actually sublimates. That's a very beautiful feeling. And what is interesting is your family is contained in it. It is not that you are renouncing the family or anything like that. You are now embracing a bigger and bigger family, but it has to come through knowledge. Because the feeling comes only when you feel one with others. And feeling one with others is natural as far as the partner and family is concerned. You can argue. But to feel one with your neighbor, to feel one with your community, to feel one with your nation, to feel one with God, you need to have that understanding, and that understanding comes from the knowledge. This is where actually Vedanta is the most useful knowledge, because it ultimately says you and your neighbor is one and the same. That is the knowledge it is drilling into your head again and again and again. There is no other knowledge. That unity, that oneness has to be drilled into our system to such an extent that it should percolate into all pores of our body, into all cells. Only then it will culminate and come out as a feeling. Then only you will do actions as service and sacrifice for others. So thought has to be there at the intellectual level, feeling has to be there at the mental level, which is most important, and then it will automatically come out as actions in the form of service and sacrifice for the others. On the other hand, what creates havoc is the mind, and this is where the marital harmony gets disturbed. First is obviously what we said is based on the love. When it turns into that attachment, pampering each other's likes and dislikes. Likes and dislikes have been always pampered right from childhood by the father, mother, etc. And it has already formed a groove into our system. It forms a motor in our personality. It drives us in our experiences. We do everything what we like. We avoid doing whatever we dislike, and this is like unconsciously, unknowingly promoted by others also. But this gets culminated in marriage, where the partners tend to pamper each other's likes and dislikes. This is not to curb anybody's feeling, but continuously by doing this, what happens is that you are making the other person dependent on you. This leads to the possessiveness actually. This leads to a stage where you will be bound and the other person is also bound. So pampering each other's likes and dislikes, where you are first of all making the other person weak, you are making the other person dependent on you, and the wives have to take a major blame in this actually. In this process they put themselves also in greater trouble, and obviously the man also takes unconsciously he takes advantage of the situation, and he also loses his path towards self-sufficiency in this. As I said, this leads to possessiveness. Possessiveness is something that what you hold, remember that you are also held by that. That is the curse of possessiveness. If a man possesses a horse, the horse cannot move, yes, but you can also not move. What we have to understand is, each and every unit which is a living or non-living being has an independent movement of its own. And you have to maintain a proper distance, allow that proper speed for each and everybody to function, maintain that elbow room, that's about all, nothing else. If you carefully analyze, of course we will not go into the depth of the philosophical discussion here, but nothing in the world can you possess. You are not eligible to possess, you cannot claim it by any argument also. Even the wife, you say my wife, obviously in terms of usage of language you can say my husband, you can say, but that tendency of possessiveness is that she belongs to me, that she has to listen to whatever I say, others cannot even have a look at her or something like that. All those thoughts which run in me, and maybe same on the other side. Why does that happen? What is it in her that you possess? Just because you have tied 3 knots of a Mangal Sutra on a marriage day or exchange a ring, does it make her your property? In that sense, it is disrespectful. Similar on the other side, possessiveness of wife towards the husband, it completely curtails the freedom, it completely curtains his independent movement. It actually results in a lot of bitterness. This we have covered before. Sensual indulgence, if it is not moderated or regulated, leads to neutralization, where you will go through it mechanically and will not feel any pleasure, but you have to go through because without it there is displeasure. The same thing actually. It's very sad. Such a highest form of pleasure glorified in whichever way, and you derive no pleasure out of it, and you try any new means and everything. It really is sad that that which is available to you naturally. What is interesting? This is something which is there available for you for a long period of time, and you can use it properly. As I said, even in Ayurveda it is given as part of a healthy life also. But like in any other pleasure, you overdo it, you are not... interesting, when it comes to Pashu Vega, that they say animal force, they do not know how to control and they do it. But they do not do it out of seasons. Only when the animal is hungry it will eat. Only in that particular season that they will do, and they do it out of necessity to bring out progeny also. And as I said, the approach for this is also different for a man and a woman. So that also you need to understand. And you have to here also, as Swami Ramatirtha says, the real pleasure in marital bliss with reference to physical relationship is also coming out of renunciation. Unless otherwise you understand, and if there is not an absence of ego in it, you will not be able to enjoy it thoroughly. And that is where I said in the beginning that what is depicted in internet and porn is actually the opposite of it. There is no genuine pleasure content in terms of how deeply you can go and enjoy it. So it's like a child eating a quickly chocolate in 20 seconds and there's nothing more for it to enjoy. That is not the way even chocolate has to be enjoyed. You have to have the objectivity to keep the chocolate by the side of your mouth and allow that juice to go into your system. It requires a lot of strength and objectivity. It's like that it is. And there are very many marital problems that can be resolved if this aspect of the marital life is properly understood and taken care of. There is no harm even consulting. That's what, this is not something that we openly talk about, and that's not in culture, but instead of going to a source which completely gives a wrong direction and a wrong understanding, it is better to consult somebody who has a deeper experience, and not only experience, a meaning into this. These are seen even in great men of renunciation of the past, and that is why we are confidently saying it. It is a very important aspect. And unfortunately, if you use it in a wrong way, you tend to go into neutralization and lose the pleasure of it. And then there is bickering and quarrel, where it is not catered, they do not know, but it comes out ugly in a different way. And that causes disharmony here. As we said, samsara, this is called as terrestrial entanglement. Samsara is something very nice when you get into, at least there are a couple of examples that are constantly given for samsara in Vedanta. One is the ocean, obviously. It is so nice to stand in the ocean, beach and enjoy it. But how deep it is, you do not know. And once you get into it, how you will get out, you do not know. Exactly like that is the forest. Forest is also, as you enter, nice smell is there, bird chirping is there, and cool breeze is there. But when you are deep into it, you do not know the way out. There is insects, there is going to be poisonous snakes, other things are also part of it. But as you enter, it is very charming and very attractive. That is samsara. And this is what is this also, marriage also. You have to understand this. And as I said, how much ever you prepare also, once you enter and experience, it is going to be different. But if you have this thought at the back of your mind, you will be sort of careful in terms of understanding what is the role of it and quickly shift to more permanent goals in life. Then you will be able to deal with this. Not in a negative way that they are saying samsara, when will I get out of it? Nothing like that. You will beautifully grow out of it. but it is a necessary samsara. Understand it's a samsara. This is very important. In terms of expression of affection also, assuming that people are genuine in their love, as I said, most people call attachment as love. That is not the case. Even if there is a genuine love, it is more difficult to receive than to give. Giving itself is difficult, but even if you are giving, you must know how to moderate it. See, love or any other emotion is a spontaneous expression. When we say spontaneous expression, you cannot say between 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock I will love somebody today. It doesn't work like that, right? It's a spontaneous thing that has to come out of your heart. So there need not be a curtailment of that expression. But in overall understanding, what you must remember is, just as you cannot, however much you love a child and you want to feed the good food, that is only such quantity that the child can take. Otherwise, it is going to throw it out on you. It is exactly like that. There are, and we discussed it in when we I think in molding children or some other talk. A child, when it is 0 to 5 years, you can pour out your emotion. It's like a prince or a god. But after that, you have to moderate and be strict. Exactly like that, there are people who you cannot pour out your emotion, even if however genuine it is, because they do not know how to take it. And it will result in a very sort of encashment of that love. So a husband comes home with all the problems in the office. There's labor problem, there's some other problem, and then he comes home and the wife maybe massages him and gives him a cup of coffee, which is very genuine, and he says, "Thank God you are there. It is so much problem in the office, and it's nice that I'm feeling relieved." She immediately says, "When are you taking me to Singapore?" Something like that. If she says, what it means is that it is not that she is also saying something wrong, but she doesn't know how to even accept that what he is giving. So he has now one more problem with him, that's about all. So you have to be careful in terms of how you express. The persons who are above you and who are more objective than you, to them you can pour out your emotions. They have that capacity to absorb. To Guru, to God, you can pour out your bhakti, to pour out your, even to elders who can take, you can do it. Children, you have to be careful. Partners, similarly, according to the situation, you have to be careful. Employer-employee relationship is different. There also you have to give emotion. At the same time, have the carrot and stick policy also. But the basis of love is always there. We are talking about the expression here, expression of affection. It is more difficult to receive than to give. To receive also you need a lot of strength, lot of objectivity here. Okay. Okay. In the time we have, we will see what temporary relief can be there. Temporary relief in the sense, obviously the main thing is to develop our intellect with the knowledge of Vedanta, understand the overall picture of marriage and the role of the marriage in our lives, and set our goal towards self-development and self-realization and walk towards it. That's the way. And it's a slow and steady process. Even if you fall and get up, doesn't matter, but use the knowledge properly, make yourself objective, make yourself strong. That is the only way. But with the existing intellect available, we can sort out various small problems in marriage, which probably we have not thought in that direction. In that sense, it's not a big deal at all. As Swamiji says, 10 to 15% or even 5 to 10% of knowledge is more than enough to deal with pinpricks of life. What is appearing to be a very, very big problems now. Mother-in-law problem or some cockroach problem or something like that. All those things doesn't need a giant intellect. With some amount of knowledge, with some amount of understanding, it can be sorted out. Yes, if you want to raise yourself to the level of renunciate and go towards self-realization, that is a lifetime effort and a dedicated effort and a committed effort. That is what we must try. No excuses there. But at least first we need to fill the potholes and fly a little high. That's about all. So for which it's not a big deal. Anybody can gain this knowledge and be free from this. It is not a big thing at all. So first and foremost thing is assessment. Most of the problems comes because we want others to fit into our mental pattern, but they will be what they are. Probably it is covered in later point also, that they are the expression of their gunas. You have to say, having understood that this is my partner and having lived with them for some time, you can easily assess them. And see, point is, the mind later tends to focus on this negativity only. In any relationship, try to focus on the positivity, and if you have chosen to live with this partner, you have to assess these one or two negativities will be there. Maybe that nagging quality in the wife is there, or husband is of a forgetful quality, or he will forget the anniversary. Another thing, if he forgets, then only his husband. Suddenly if he remembers and gives you a present, remember that could be ulterior motive also, we do not know. I am just saying. So if that assessment is there, then you see, it is not recently there was a very, obviously it's a funny video, and I think it's a real video only. A husband for the birthday of the wife bought a new Mercedes, and it's some high, in Mercedes also there is level, right? Some E-class, some class Mercedes he got for her, and he decorated it. He closes her eyes and slowly brings her. She's no clue at all. She has no clue at all where she is being led to, and comes out of the house and slowly makes her sit into the car and opens the eyes, and she is extremely suddenly happy. Such a beautiful car that is given, and she begins to cry. Tears of joy. She comes out, closes the door, and her crying is continuing, but in a different mode now. And she says, what happened? Get lost. And she's like now fighting. She says, this is not the color I wanted. This is not the color I like. And he says, you are not serious. No, you don't like me, you don't love me. She goes inside like that. Now, see, Mercedes, how it operates, what are the system inside, engine, all this is not her concern. Her concern is actually the color of the car. It could be any other car with that color she would have liked. Now, this is obviously this person who is spending so much money with all this love and affection for the wife. It is, again, I am not saying it's right or wrong. He has done a great thing to give a Mercedes, but he has to also understand that she will be particular about that color. The color in the Mercedes is more important than the horsepower and the other air cooling system and other things in the car. This is just an assessment. What nature my wife is, what nature my husband is, that will solve a lot of things in it. Remember to give independence to the spouse. You are an individual, she is an individual. You have come together in a bond of marriage, as I said, to walk together in the path towards the self-development. Do not force or impose yourself on the other person. Allow that person to have his own independent thoughts, independent this thing. And here also particularly, it is the role of the husband is little more. He has to understand and give the independence to because particularly we see, as we have seen in most Indian families and marriage, it is like as though the wife is there just to be catering only to the husband, and to the point that she can be even treated like a slave. To that extent the male ego goes. That is not the case. There has to be, Lord Shiva shows by sharing half the body with Parvati, and says that in that sense there is equality. So the independence of the spouse has to be respected. Similarly, from the other side, you have to understand how a man functions and how his independence is there. That has to be respected by the wife also. Duty versus rights. Any relationship which is based on duty flourishes. Any relationship which is based on rights, it's going to be short-lived. And this is a orientation that we see in East more, that is still duty-oriented. Teacher's duty to students duty to teacher, government's duty to the people, like that. It's father's duty to son and son's duty to father. So husband's duty to wife and wife's duty to, if it is duty oriented, there will be a very beautiful relationship and blossoming of love will be there. Once the rights starts getting established, there is going to be soon that imposition on others, and it will eventually lead to separation also, or there will be, obviously for the sake of it you stay together also, there will be definitely bitterness and quarrel that will be there. Understand that the world cannot fit into your mental pattern. World will be as it is. You can only change yourself ultimately. So this thought must be always there. If at all in anything. The ultimate test is if you are agitated, something is wrong with you only. That fundamental principle doesn't change. So you have to mold yourself in such a way that you are able to accept it as it is. Only when you accept it as it is, that there can be a course correction also. I am not saying that a partner should not correct the other partner or try to change the other partner if there is a tamasic behavior or anything like that. But first and foremost thing, understand as it is. That acceptance has to be there. Once that acceptance is there, based on a genuine love and affection, mind can be calm. Only based on the calmness of the mind can you even attempt a correction on your child, on your partner, or anybody for that matter. But at each and everybody is therefore an expression of his or her gunas, their vasanas. So there cannot be a change beyond a point. They have put in effort to get into that. They are into that, you have to understand, and that is the ultimate. That is the ultimate understanding. You are an expression of your vasanas. Remember that. Just as you cannot change yourself, you cannot mold beyond yourself a point where there are where you can say it is in a part of your prarabdha. You have to respect it in the other partner also. Marriage ultimately is a package deal. You get what you deserve. This law also you should not forget. Everybody wants their wife to be like Sita. Every wife wants to be a husband like Rama. But according to the law, only Rama will get Sita, not the other way, and it cannot be anything else. It's the only love story where love increases and increases and increases after marriage is Ramayana only. Whatever Sita expects of Rama, she says it is many more times than that, and as their 12 years they are in Ayodhya, 13 years they are in the forest, Vardate means it grows. Otherwise, most of the time, love culminates in marriage, and after that there is only carrying on without any. Think about it, the freshness and the affection that you had in the initial period of marriage or before marriage also, courtship period, can you claim the same thing 5 years and 10 years after marriage? So real love you can measure from in terms of, I am just giving arbitrary number, 1 or 2 years after marriage, what is there? That is the real love. Otherwise, earlier you see only one aspect of it, which is infatuation. And if you are attached, you will get a wife who will be attached, that's all. If you are rajasic, you will get that guna guneshu vartante. It is a package deal. Remember that you get what you deserve. And if you say you want to divorce this person and get into another person, they may have that one particular quality may be rectified. There can be another 10 qualities. That is why the second marriage divorce rates in the West are much more than the first marriage. Why it is so? So you have to accept it, understand it, and get along. It is a package deal. Plus and minus will be there. Just as a government job and a private company job, everything is like a package deal. Like that also, this is a package deal. It is important to understand the roles of a husband and a wife. Wife or woman is the backbone of the family. Be very clear about it, and that is what Arjuna also mentions in the first chapter of Gita. It is their natural tendency to be oriented towards family, and these are all very helpful in maintenance of the family. Even today, if a husband or the father in the family goes astray, there is still chance for the family to stay intact and go through the course. But if the woman of the family goes corrupt, it is very difficult for normally it doesn't happen. I'm just saying it is not possible to sustain that family in the same mold. She is the backbone of the family. Like in a nowadays you have the automatic buses where the driver can issue the ticket, but otherwise think of a normal bus where you have a driver and a conductor. Conductor, if you ask whose job is difficult, it is the conductor's job is difficult. But whose job is subtle? It is the driver's job which is subtle. What has the driver has to do? He has to concentrate on only one thing, that the bus is driven properly, because entire life of all the people are dependent on that. It is a single pointed focused job. If that is there, then the conductor can do his job properly. Conductor has to issue tickets, he has to provide the seats, he has to see where the stop comes, he has to write what are the other things, he is making a note of the stages and the tickets issued, everything. So much job is involved for the conductor. He can do it properly only if the driver is driving the bus properly. And in terms of the mental makeup also, a man is designed to be single task oriented. That's how it is. A woman is oriented to be multitask oriented. That is why they are able to do household jobs very nicely, and it is misunderstood as patriarchy and not allowing a wife to work outside. That is not the point here. According to your Swadharma, you can do that also. But to be a person in the house and do every job is not an easy job. It has come to a point where it is being looked down upon, so they even if you are in a house, you want to have a visiting card as a freelancer is a very sad thing. But to be a person in the home, and you can call yourself homemaker or housewife or whatever it is a very, very challenging and tough job, and that comes naturally. I am talking by and large. And nowadays, when for financial and various peer pressures, so many reasons that husband and wife are working, obviously the husband also has to then share the job of the wife in cleaning the utensils or washing and other thing. That's there. When people go from India to America, they do it. They do it very obviously and naturally there. But here, if the roles are, this is again a different topic to discuss as to how economy is involved and what is the role in bringing up the child. All that is different. But what you have to understand, what comes naturally for a husband, what comes naturally for the wife, that you respect it first. There should not be a competition, there should not be a peer pressure, there should not be a comparison with other society or other neighbors who are doing, and these should not form the basis. But this requires definitely a lot of strength to fight it out. If the husband, so the overall, whoever is called as the head of the family, if he is able to set a direction for the family and the family is able to go there, then the person who is actually managing the affairs of the family, that person's job becomes easier. So ideal relationship is like that of a driver and conductor in the family. Lastly, with Vedantic knowledge, if there is a alignment to a common ideal, wonderful. If at least one person has this knowledge and is able to do something about it, they can maintain harmony in the family. If two persons are getting this knowledge, well and good. And like as I said in the last class, it's a relationship between earth and the moon. Ultimately, they are oriented towards the sun. But either directly or indirectly, if you are oriented like that, then there will be a perfect harmony in the family. Even if I would say, I do not know, just as a percentage, 60% compatibility and this thing is there, it's a very successful marriage only, we should say. And there is enough scope for them to improve and move further. So alignment of common ideal obviously comes from the knowledge of Vedanta here. So it has to be understood that Grahasthashrama is a unique, not a unique, it's a very natural and important stage in a person's life where he is bound to do karma and take his life forward towards attainment in the goal of self-realization. Thank you.
Poornam Adah Poornamidam Poornat Poornamudachyate Poornasya Poornamadaya Poornamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.